Welcome back, everyone, to the podcast.
Welcome.
It's Allison and George,
How y'all doing?
the dynamic duo. Do we have a nickname for us?
We don't.
We should. We'll muddle on that.
Yeah.
And
What's I don't, it should be, I want it to hit.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like any good nickname should. Today we are talking about something that we know a lot about because we've both seen each other through a lot and we both experienced that a lot. And it is
life transitions.
excellent. Here's the thing about life transitions for me.
Mm-hmm.
Good gracious, do I hate them? But God, do I love them too.
Yeah. Bittersweet.
I think the thing is I really like change because I feel like that means evolution and growing and learning, and all those things are like totally amazing things.
Yeah.
But navigating them and kind of the hardships, like especially when you're in the midst of it, is like, dang, this feels like a storm that will not pass.
Yeah.
I think what's also really great is, we've known each other. We're coming up on 3 years, and I think we've seen each other through quite a bit of transitions. Like, in kind of, you can kind of categorize. You have life transitions, work transitions, city transitions, relationship transitions.
Yeah. Mindset transitions.
Oof. Yeah.
But I think, as you said, like that is part of life, right? And if I were to say, like, man, am I the same person I was 10 years ago? Like, nobody would want to say yes to that, answer.
Were you the same person you were in high school? God, I hope not.
Hope not, for real. And it's, like you said, they can be scary, but the right approach is key. I mean,
what are your, like, 3 approaches as you're, like, what are the things that you need to be mindful of when you go into life transitions?
Ooh, I would say number 1, be calm.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get too high. Don't get too low.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, embrace it because it will move faster than you think.
Mm-hmm.
And 3, just be curious about what's on the other side, good or bad.
That's a good list off the cuff. I like that.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I have to be most mindful of when it comes to life transitions is patience. I am honestly one of the least patient people I know.
You are the most least patient person I know.
Really? Out of all the people you know, I'm the least patient?
You top 2, not 2.
Okay. Top 2, not 2.
No, I mean...
Listen, I literally came out of the gate and I was like, I'm not patient. And you confirmed it. So I don't know what I'm so hurt about. But I think that's the thing is, like, I'm just a very, like, organized person. And I tend to, like, it's because I have experienced, like, feeling the lack of control, and I don't like that feeling. So patience is, like, the virtue that I just can't ever seem to adopt because it means I like how I talk about on this podcast quite often about surrendering, which is literally probably another descriptor of patience. So today we're being brutally honest about sometimes it's your intention and the things that you want to change. But yeah, patience is really hard for me in life transitions.
Yeah, I think one of the parts about transitions that's tough for me is also letting go. And it could be letting go of something that you're comfortable with, an identity, or maybe even a job or a partner that you really categorize yourself and view your identity through.
Yeah.
But I think, as you said, like having the patience to understand that you too deserve to change.
Yeah.
Leave room for it. But if it's something that you might like miss, or you feel like, I just don't want to let this go, I think that's the tough part, because that for me it can drag on the transition.
Yeah. Are you a sentimental person? Like, do you keep like, cards, or like, how would you describe your sentimentalness?
I would say I am. I do keep things there. They might be spread out in many different cities right now.
George got storage units.
I have storage
corners
units
of this
everywhere.
country.
But yeah, I mean, I remember keeping notes, I think I actually mentioned it to you. Well, my mom kept it, but I definitely made sure that it was in a safe space. But there was a project that we had in maybe middle school or something like that, where you were supposed to write out your life and, how would high school go? How would college go? And then how would you live? And I mean, I spent some time on this thing. Like back when we were clipping out magazine pictures using
Collaging,
scissors,
baby. It's coming back.
you know, Elmer's glue. What they know about that? So, making like
I
nice
think
little.
schools still have Elmer's glue.
Do they? I don't know. I feel like
You
everything
sound
is
like
on
a
a
real old man right now.
Hey, I feel like
You're
everything is
transitioning
screened.
into old man syndrome.
Back in my day, yeah. But no, it was pretty cool. I looked at it maybe 6 months ago or something like that, and it was just really fun to read, and also to see like how far I've come, and also how accurate some of it was.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I played sports, so I kept a lot of just sports memorabilia. In my prior relationship, I kept a ton of just sentimental things, but I had to let those go.
Of course.
Right. Respectfully.
Yeah.
And let those go with love. Right. But yeah, I would say I definitely am. How about you?
Brutally sentimental.
What is one thing that you still have that you're like, I can't believe I still have this?
I keep a lot of things from my travels that I go on. So whether it's like tickets or I actually just thought of what I have that is the most sentimental. It has nothing to do with it. Might have a little to do with like a life transition, but I used to have a dog with my ex, and my dog lives with my parents now.
Okay.
Shout out, mad love to my parents for taking that on when I was going through a life transition. Full circle. But I have like a clipping of my dog's hair.
Oh shit!
In like a little baggie, yeah.
Wow.
That's somewhere. Like I know that it's in my.
What kind of dog? Just so we can set the visual.
Miniature golden doodle. His name is Lincoln. He is the love of my life. Oh. Literally, like, you know how like the Grinch with like the heart growing? That's the only time that my heart feels like that. That is like the purest love that I've ever had. Yeah.
I mean, we don't deserve animals.
We do not deserve animals. We don't deserve dogs.
Definitely.
Cats can kind of whatever.
Cats can. They can be gone. I don't trust them. They're just too conniving, and also like.
George is really spitfiring here. I don't know if you know.
I just have to get this off my chest with these cats because I don't know.
The floor is yours.
Let me just give me a second, okay?
Okay.
So
the cat lovers are gonna come for you.
You're telling me that like this feline or this animal that's gonna be sitting on some like top corner, planning all day how they're gonna like scratch and claw or just ignore me. And I'm supposed to be hyped and excited about that compared to a dog that's going to wag its tail, jump up, move everything out of its way as soon as you walk through that door. Like, to me, the two loves just don't compare. But obviously, to each their own.
Are you done?
I don't want to,
Oh, he's still going.
But like, it's just, they can't compare. Come on, let's be real, y'all. Dog gang.
Hard transition, back on track.
Sorry, back on track.
Okay. Here's the thing that I actually want to talk about because I think that you and I have seen each of us through this transition a couple different times now, but that's new cities. So we met in Minneapolis, but you didn't live here. You didn't live there.
Yep.
I moved to LA. You did live here. I actually, fun fact, I called George my LA angel because I was on a road trip and I came through LA and I was living in Minneapolis. It was during COVID and our offices were shut down. And basically we knew that we weren't going to go back to the office for 6 months. So I took a 2-month road trip across the country, came through LA, visited George. We sat on the beach and he offhandedly said, "How could you not want this every day?" And 3 days later, I was like, you know what? I'm going to move to LA. But it was like, it's one of those like kismet things where it's like, I truly believe that I met you so that when we were here in LA, that it's like how I ended up moving here. So
yeah.
That was like a really big transition. You've obviously transitioned out of LA, kind of in and out temporarily.
In and out, back and forth. I think with new cities for me, in the beginning, it was obviously exciting, right? I'm getting ready to go to a new city. There's going to be so many new things to learn. But one of the really interesting parts about transitioning, especially city to city, is I'm even more comfortable with myself because I've been tested, right? I've had to move somewhere, find a new friend group, try to be social, find aspects about this place that I feel comfortable with. And I've done that enough times that I feel like those muscles I can flex in any situation. So it does allow me to feel very comfortable. And that can be tough too, because when we're from Minneapolis and sometimes we talk to our folks back home and it's like, hey, like, you can make this happen too. You can move, not knowing
Yeah.
that it also takes a kind of a certain type of person.
You literally said that to me. You're like, most people talk about wanting to move to LA. You actually do it.
Yeah.
You did it. And I was like,
it's a
yeah,
whole
that's who I
different.
am. I do what I say that I'm going to do.
Exactly. Exactly. But it's also, I mean, my uncle, he was very just instrumental in my transition, and I'll never forget this till I die. He was like, because I was a little hesitant. I mean, I knew I wanted to move to LA. I knew I'd already kind of decided, and I was going to follow through on that. But he was like, if you have to pay rent, deal with a neighbor that you don't like, go to find a grocery store, you're gonna have to do this regardless, right? If we're in the context of like you're leaving college and you're about to get ready to live on your own, right? You're gonna have to do all these things regardless. So you might as well do them in a city that you're actually interested in, or that you want to explore. And I was like, you're right.
That's a very good perspective.
So, just little subtle mindset shifts like that to not allow maybe a new city transition to just be so big and grand, and you kind of can blow it up a little bit bigger than you anticipate. But I also believe, fate favors the bold. Like if you intentionally want something and you put yourself out there, like stars will align for you.
You know what my favorite thing about moving to a new city is being able to like be that updated version of yourself, like uninhibited. I think also too, like I went to college in Minnesota. I had my first job in Minnesota. Like there's a lot of like growing up that I did. And I think that I was like one person to, my immediate surrounding.
Yeah.
And I think that I felt the rub of like needing to go to another city because I felt like I had evolved and like grown past the identity that was kind of allowing that was keeping me in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you're also just more interested in finding new like perspectives, angles, and ways about really just about going about life. Because that was part of it for me.
Yeah.
Coming from corporate America, in a place like the Midwest where again it's about security. These jobs make it also very easy for you to just be cool, right? Because they'll pay you a decent wage. You can get a house relatively quickly. They again do all the steps, but one of the things, especially when it comes to like moving to a new city, it could be the fear of what if I need, or I'm going to miss my coffee shop, or I'm going to miss my routine, or there's something that I'm leaving behind. And I think that may be true, but another way to look at it as, I wonder what other places I'm going to learn about, what other new routines I'm going to build up, because like I know you love going to museums, right? And so if you move to a new city, you can rest assured that if you have nothing else to do, you're gonna go check out a museum, which could lead to walking past a pretty cool coffee shop, which could lead to meeting somebody cool in line that shows you something that you may like. So just having that courage to step out there, but it's that mindset of like, I wonder again, what is around the corner? What am I not aware of?
Yeah.
In the context of like your routine or anything that you feel like you're leaving behind.
It's so funny that you say that because I had this recent like awareness that I feel like I like myself a little bit better when I'm in that like new space of like I love myself when I travel because I'm so curious. I'm like, what's around this corner? Let's seek this out. Like you said, museums are my lifeline. Like if I'm going to a new city, I'm like, top 5 museums, check, gotta visit those. And like when I first moved to LA, I felt like I had a little bit more like curiosity. I'm like, ooh, what can I hike this weekend? Where can I check out? And then you start to like get into these routines. And I think that's the like, as you like finish up maybe a transition into a new city and you've like kind of got your footing, it's like for me it's important to maintain that curiosity and that like sense of discovery so that it keeps the city exciting.
Yes, for sure. I mean, to be frank, that was part of my transition out of Minneapolis. I just felt like, one, spent so much time there.
Gone to every damn bar in that city.
Gone to every club, bar. I've seen the same people every weekend.
It's the same people that got me. I'm like, especially when you're dating. And like I'm not trying to make myself sound like a hoe, but like I feel like I dated the pool in Minneapolis. Like, no one else was, like, entering my age bracket,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know?
Exactly, and it's, whether you're ready for a new change or something like that, but for me, it's just it's easy it got stale, right? And
Mhm.
so once that happens, it's, "Oh, you have this urge, I gotta go see something new." You can either travel more
Yep.
and bake it into your schedule, hopefully you have the resources and job flexibility to do that, or you just pick up and move, right?
And that's part of our personality too, though. Like, I mean, there is another side of people who really love that routine and
Yeah.
that, like, semblance of, this is where I go on Thursdays. So
Mhm.
to each their own. But
Yeah,
obviously, I think you and I tend to gravitate towards variety of experiences.
for
So,
sure.
yeah.
What about, like, job transitions? I know we've had a few of those.
Yeah, you've had some. I haven't had any since I've known you, but I did make a super large transition. My degree is in clothing design,
Mhm.
and I was a designer for like 14 years. And like I wanted to be a designer since I was 8 years old.
Mm.
And so it was very much like my life mission.
Mhm.
And I've got a lot of joy from it. I really like I truly believe that like clothes can affect how you feel and it's a way to like
Yeah.
express yourself and I loved that about apparel.
Mhm.
And I just like got to the point where it just really lost that luster and I
Mm.
knew that I needed to continue to evolve and grow to feel fulfilled in my career. So I
Yeah.
actually transitioned into a different category. So I work in beauty now.
Mm.
I like by the time that I got to that moment, I was so ready and I
Mhm.
knew it like intuitively.
Yeah.
Um, but it was kind of an identity crisis moment. I almost was like, am I giving up? Am I
Mm.
not like seeing this through? But it doesn't take away from the fact that I was a designer for 14 years
Yeah.
and I pull from those experiences all the time now in my new category that I work in. But yeah, it was kind of a reckoning and like
Mhm.
my parents had a really hard time with it.
Mm.
Yeah, my mom was like, "This is what you've wanted to do since you were 8."
Yeah. Like, what's
Um,
changed, and
yeah,
should I be concerned?
yeah.
Mm.
But I'm very like I also think that that's just part of my personality
Mhm.
is I'm a manifest generator. I don't know if anyone follows human design.
Human design. I hopefully will find out what I am later this week, actually.
I'm excited. I think I know what you are, but manifest generators basically is like they want to try a lot of different things and
Mhm.
they might not like finish projects, but that's all about like gathering experiences
Yeah.
and like no project really is unnecessary because it's just building you as like a total person. So I feel
Mm.
like that's pretty fitting for me.
I can see that
Yeah.
for sure.
It's kind of like starting a podcast in your late 30s for no reason other than you just felt really called to do it?
yeah, let's just do it. Let's start podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my job transitions were a lot of religious identity related, right?
Mhm.
So, working in corporate America, in finance specifically, because I felt like this was a really important part of life that I should have an awareness on. My family didn't necessarily come from money, so I was like, oh, I'm kind of doing this for them and for the
Mhm.
sake of this knowledge to be passed down. Also, I realized that, I just got comfortable in it. They made it very easy.
Mhm.
I wasn't as curious about things. I didn't really have like big dreams anymore. It was like, and in corporate America too, you see your future, right?
Mhm.
The person
You
working
know the
next to you,
pipeline.
you know exactly how much that promotion is going to come in at.
Mhm.
You know where they live. You know what kind of car they drive. So it's almost like you can walk into work every day and be like, okay, that's where you're going to be in a couple of years. Are you comfortable with that?
Mhm.
Right. But I realized that I was more interested in the stories of the entrepreneurs that I was coming in contact with.
Mhm.
Didn't necessarily have the best idea for anything, but I was just like, that journey of figuring things out just seems way more interesting than sitting in this cubicle wearing this, fancy suit that is choking the hell out of my neck.
Right.
And, like
I
that
literally
was
cannot picture you in a suit. No disrespect, like, but
that
that's
was
just not your
those
vibe.
that is not me at
Now, a
all.
tux, I'm sure you look handsome as hell.
Oh, I mean, those galas were fun. But yeah, it wasn't aligned with my true interest, and I
Mhm.
had to come to grips with that. Like,
Yeah.
you need to start over from scratch, and you're gonna do it in a brand new city.
Those starting over from scratch life transitions are brutal.
Yes. I mean, you start questioning everything. Like,
Everything.
who am I? Why was I even interested in this? Do I even trust myself to know that this next thing is worth pursuing? Because I've been so wrong before, right?
Right.
And for me, what was just super helpful was making the decision based off of how I feel, that true gut feeling, right? And then also, fortunately enough, having a strong network to allow me to learn more about what I was interested in. I think that also, I don't think we realize the importance of that. Like, if you have an interest in fashion and you don't know anybody or you can't connect with anybody, like, you're kind of, not that you won't get the real information, it might just take longer.
Yeah.
And you won't necessarily get that experienced intel.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, I knew I wanted to be just in the more entrepreneurial space, whether it's like helping them solve whatever problems they're facing or just kind of being a part of something that's being built in real time that I can say I helped or I pioneered. But I always knew like I was interested in cannabis, right? From early on. I had a chance to live abroad and live in the Netherlands, so I saw a whole society function. I'm like, okay, well, this is possible. And then you learn about why isn't it illegal? And then I was a political science major, so that's super juicy.
Ooh, yeah.
So I knew that I was eventually heading to that route. And again, I had to jump off the comfort
bus, yeah.
comfort bus, and just, all right, I'm gonna start this over from ground zero.
We talked about this on our first date. This was
Yeah.
one of the first things that we talked about because
I was in the midst of it, right?
you were in the midst of it, and you were transitioning from corporate into cannabis in a different city. And I remember listening to your voice inflection, like you were talking about kind of the space you were in and where you wanted to go. And there was such a palpable energy shift when you were talking about, like, because I think you were still in this space of like, well, I think I might do this. And also you're on a first date, so you're like not trying to like,
yeah, I wasn't trying to give you the whole breakdown.
Right, you're not bearing your soul. But I just remember like even just the way that you spoke about it and how I could tell how excited you were.
Yeah.
And I think my reaction was like, you got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't, yeah, because it wasn't really formed yet. I was like, I think this could work, but I could tell I was probably smiling more.
Yeah.
Definitely more excited about it. And I'm just so thankful that I followed that path because it led me to where I am now. The individuals that I met along the way, I think are lifelong friends for sure. And I just feel, again, more comfortable and as myself, right? Like being around people that aren't fearful of their ideas was also very important for me. I didn't even realize, because operating from a space of like logic and are all these steps gonna be in place before I jump or before I act? When you work with entrepreneurs, like, they don't give a damn. They're like, today I'm doing this and I don't even know how that's gonna work, but we're just gonna roll with it. I'm just like, but what, how? And then you eventually just realize like, oh, well, that's part of what makes them successful in this role.
Yeah.
They're able to like move that blocker. And then I've just viewed, I think it just kind of spilled into other aspects of life that I had a more logic approach towards. And I'm like, well, just sometimes you just gotta let it fly.
And sometimes when you make those decisions, like I think transitioning to LA was like this really big transition for me. And once I made that decision, you start to rattle off like, oh, I need to find an apartment and then I need to get my blah, 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 blah. And you're like, these things are going to happen like you're going to have to just kind of check the boxes and go through the to-do list.
Yeah.
And also that's kind of like fun if you allow it to be. So
yeah. What are some things that like you struggled with when it comes to, I know we talked about cities and job transitions, because it all can't be fun, right?
No, I mean, I think that there's pros and cons. Like, also, it's really when you have the time to reflect back. Like I said, sometimes when you're in the midst of it, you're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, or how is this all going to work out, or how's this going to land? And I think those questions, although are understandable, they might not be the most helpful because we've gotten to a place where successful, head on our shoulders adults, and we've done a good job so far. So it's kind of having that inner trust of like, there's a reason I have this idea and there's a reason that I keep moving forward. So like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the lessons that I picked up along the way, obviously mindset was huge, but understanding that as much as I think I'm in control or I feel like I can have the right plan,
Yeah.
that shit can go sideways real quick.
Yeah.
And just that release, I think is just very powerful because again, there's you can't predict the people that you're going to bump into at a coffee shop or certain interactions that you're going to have, whether it be at work or just your day-to-day life. But if you aren't like open to them, if you're not even aware, if you're just locked into your it has to fit in this square box and I'm not even looking or paying any attention to anything outside of this, you really could lose out on some, I think, fruitful opportunities. So
I need to be better at that. That's good advice. Thank you.
yeah, I mean, we all are learning and growing. So I also need to do that a little bit more myself.
Yeah. I think one of the other life transitions that I think was the hardest that I've ever experienced was that transition from being in a very long-term relationship to going to be being single. I can't even like say it because I was like, that one really, that one was
scary.
a doozy. Yeah, that took 3 years to kind of ramp back up. But I know that you've also been through kind of a major one from kind of that relationship identity.
Yeah.
I mean, I met my ex when I was 20 and we were together basically our entire 20s, which are such formidable years.
Exactly.
And I'll never forget this feeling until the day that I die. But if there's anything you know about me is that you know that I go head first into some of these things. So I not only was getting divorced, but I was starting a new job, like a very different job in corporate America. All in the same time frame, which is wild. It was my Saturn return for all my astrology friends, which basically means you like your entire life blows up and you just start to patch it back together is really how I would describe mine. But my Saturn return was brutal.
They make it sound so sexy, Saturn return.
Oh, it's not. There's literally nothing sexy about a Saturn return. But I'm glad you feel that way. I would have a hunch that your ending of your relationship was also in your Saturn return, but we'll get back to I'll draw that up later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was sitting there in my cubicle, barf. And I was in this new job and we had an overseas team. And I needed to they were like, introduce yourself to the new overseas team because, that's your team and you want to build camaraderie.
Yeah.
And they were like, do 5 fun facts about yourself to like let the team know about you. And I sat and stared at the screen for what felt like hours.
Wow.
Because I was like, who am I?
Wow.
I had always identified as being this person's wife. We had owned a home together. We had a dog together. Like a lot of these really big descriptors on who I identified as. And they were all gone.
That could be scary.
And so I sat and I was like, I have 8 siblings. My favorite color is periwinkle. Like, I don't know. Like, it had to have been the most like basic shit because at that point I was ground floor of basically rebuilding my true identity and my new identity. So that life transition, especially brutal, and I will never forget that feeling of being like, I don't know who I am.
Yeah. Mine kind of similar, but mine is also like the reactions of people in my circle, right? So my kind of recognition was when I was in this new space of like startup world and entrepreneurs describing what I used to do and seeing the look on people's faces like, you are doing that? Like, I can't even see it. I can't even picture it, right? Yeah. And so that happened enough times where I was like, dang, like I was not aligned. And it's visual. It's like people can read that energy. But I think it was also just something that kind of had to happen, right? And I needed that shakeup.
Yeah.
I needed to just...
People say that about me, and when I say that I used to be like a Midwestern housewife. I'm glad it
Yeah.
makes you laugh as much as
Right.
me because
Yeah.
shit, like I
Can't picture it, can't see it.
listen, a great partner, but like Midwestern housewife is never going to be the descriptor you're going to use for me. And thank goodness.
Yeah.
Like love that for you, not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. But that's that 3 years that took me to like get back on track.
Oh,
yeah.
shoot. I mean, therapy, moving to a new place, as we kind of talked about on earlier episodes, like it took me a while just to get back into the dating life, and just so much insecurity and shame with that. And yeah, it was tough. But I think that transition again just comes down to your identity. If you're known as a couple, so much so that like my people around me, friends, family, like they would say my name and then my partner's name. Like it was when they're talking to me, it's George and right. So it's like
a one name, but it's the two people. Yeah.
Just little things like that.
I forgot about that.
You know what I mean? Like, and then I would catch friends and family as they were like describing other talking to other people like, oh yeah, this is my cousin George. Right, that little, oh, they're not together anymore. And then there's the disbelief. I still can't believe that you two can, all that type of and so it's like, okay.
Listen, I don't need that.
This is not helping.
Have you ever called someone your ex's name?
No. Ooh. Thank God. I have not. I have thought of, but words never came out. I'm like, you did that?
I called my...
Please tell me it wasn't like in the...
No. It was not in an intimate situation. But also almost way worse. Because I called him. I dated someone maybe like... What is this? Maybe like 4 or 5 years after I had gotten divorced.
Okay.
We ended up like living together. I felt like, oh, he was the reason I got divorced so I could like be with this person.
Okay.
That unfortunately is not the case. But I called him my ex's name in front of my mother at my childhood home.
Whoa.
That's my bad. I think it's because I think it's because I was like, to your point about you it's your identity.
Yeah.
And I was so used to just saying my ex-husband's name in my parents' home.
Wow. How did he take that?
Not well. And that's
understandable.
Not well. Yeah.
Dang. That's actually, yeah.
I don't know how that ties into life transition.
I don't know how you bounce back because, again, you can empathize, right? Somebody can empathize with that, but then it's like, is there something deeper there that I'm now like on edge and worried about? And
I mean, that relationship was so deeply ingrained in me. We were together for 8 years.
Yeah.
You know,
like
we lived a whole ass life together. So it's like, but it was like that reverberation of like saying it and then immediately being like,
yeah, my bad. Like,
my bad. Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that whole transition from relationship to single too is I think we just forget like, oh, now I have time and space to, I don't want to say rebuild, but refamiliarize yourself with who you are. And sometimes the relationship doesn't provide you that opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if it's something that, or if you had to, I don't want to say give up something, but you had to adjust something. Let's say, for example, I know a lot of people play video games, for example, right? And if you're like a gamer,
oh God,
I'm not one. So hey,
you're just trying to get on the box here to try to advocate for video game playing.
No, I'm not. But for me, it was. I remember having friends that like,
yeah,
it was a big point of contention. Like
that's fair.
And whether it's video games or just something that you're passionate about, you in some cases in your relationship you got to like temper that a little bit, or squeeze it in kind of when you can. And then when you become single, you kind of have that space to re-engage with like either prior hobbies that you enjoyed, and hopefully that can just lead to a more fulfilling life. But I think the focus for me that I had to really understand was like, hey, now I have the time and energy and space to do this. And so like take time and energy to do it.
Yeah.
Question, like move off of how you want to move, right? Like if you had to do anything that it's a Saturday morning and it's like, hey, what do I want to do today? Like, well, as a kid, what did I like to do? Or before my relationship, what did I like to do?
Yeah.
I remember
I love
asking
how you're
myself,
alluding to inner child work without even like,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, there we go.
because I mean, I remember being in LA, bored as hell. And one day I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to do today?
Yeah, I mean that relationship, it's like what you're describing is, I would say, like a benefit, or like maybe not a benefit, but it's something to be optimistic about.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be real honest with you. Like, there's something to be said about, I don't know why I'm like advocating for relationships at this point, but like but like, you know that feeling of like waking up on a Saturday together and you're like, "Oh, what are we going to do today together?" Like that feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I first was single and I felt like I had to like fill every Friday and Saturday night with going out, activities, dinner,
Wow.
because I literally just felt like I couldn't sit with myself.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you try to make plans with me on a Friday night? Like, nah.
It's
Like,
not happening.
no. Friday night or Saturday night. I'm going to keep both for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, another time where I feel like that was very present in my life, but I think a lot of people's, was COVID, right? You had to sit in your space.
Yep.
You had to quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
You had to kind of rediscover yourself a little bit because you were distracted by everything else.
Yeah.
Work, life, partners. And it can be tough for people.
Yeah.
Right? When you have to sit.
Talk about like a forced life transition for all of us.
Looking back at it though, like, I think there was more good that came from that time.
But I feel like that's everything. When you look back in retrospect,
that's true.
Like, you're like, oh, the dots connected, or you get like, you can romanticize it, or you can like see the benefits of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of being able to reflect.
Yeah. And also, again, getting back to I think how to effectively go through transitions is like, there's going to be another side of this.
Yeah.
Right. This too shall pass.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because one of my friends literally texted me today and said, I think when you look back on this specific chapter, you're going to be really proud and like thankful.
Yeah.
And my response to her immediately was like, yeah, that might be true, but like my nervous system and my emotions
now,
don't say that
freaking
today.
the hell out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I remember we were talking about this, and we'll kind of get into kind of some time and some transitions that we're going to be getting into here.
Yeah.
But like, we want to look back on this and just be proud of what we accomplished, because I feel like when you have the time and space to do that, yeah, of course, you'll almost forget about the stresses that you actually went through the day in and day out, and waiting for me to pull up last minute. You will forget that one day, AQ. Maybe.
No, I won't forget it. That's the one thing. I think that, I mean, to your point, like the way that you're describing your brain though is like, I don't necessarily forget the hardships that I went through. I think that I have empathy for myself and like gratitude for myself that I weathered it.
Yeah.
And I think that I take that experience and hopefully say like, oh, here's what I would change in the future based on my learned experiences. Like, I love that saying. It's like, you don't start from scratch, you start from experience. I don't know why I'm.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, you've never heard that one?
I've never heard that one.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. You're never really starting from scratch now at this point. You're starting from experience.
That's so true. I like that.
Ooh, dropping
bars.
Yeah. But that being said, I think the reason that we obviously wanted to talk about this as well is because we are continuing evolving people.
Yep.
And you and I have some upcoming life transitions that I think not only deserve our undivided attention, but they're going to take some geographical logistics that are going to take some kind of expertise and some intermediate attention. So what that means for Into Me I See podcast is we're not going anywhere. I know
can't get rid of us that fast.
I know that this sounded like I was ramping up for something. We're not going anywhere. We are gorgeously celebrating the end of this season, the first season.
I still can't believe.
I know.
We did a whole podcast.
Yeah.
Multiple episodes.
Wow. You showed up on time for most of them.
I'll take that. I will take that all day. But yeah, I think
one parking ticket each. Like, I love how we should go through the stats.
That is true. Yeah. So you want to start a podcast? You know what this really takes. Be ready to get parking tickets. Be ready to be stressed out right before you get to the studio.
No, that's always you. I will say though, me. what I want to also reflect on as we're talking about reflection is you were at my apartment the night before we filmed our first episode, and I was so nervous.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't eat. I was like, maybe we should talk to a consultant. Like
podcast consultant.
Yeah, I was like, maybe we need to talk to someone about what to do. And we've shared this before, but you said the worst that can happen is it doesn't go well and we leave. I got your back. We're going to leave.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous and I was like, should we cancel? Should we not cancel? Should we cancel?
Yeah.
And now it's literally such joy. I love planning for them. I love sitting across from you. Like, I'm so much more calm. I can't wait to compare my body language of the first episode and now, because
right. I'm sure it was, again, like starting anything new, anything that you care about.
Yeah.
Right. And something like this too, where there's also a huge level of vulnerability here. Right. We both had to realistically say to ourselves, like, are you ready to, peel back the layers and show the World Wide Web what's going on with you in your life?
Well, I think that's also to the point. It's like, that's the release of control.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a private Instagram account. I don't like random DMs. I don't like random people following me because that's my area and sanctuary. But with this, it was like, I don't get to control who listens. I don't get to control who has an opinion on what I say.
Yeah.
I don't get to control any of that. And I think maybe that's a good life lesson that I needed to learn.
And I'm glad that this podcast can help you,
Thank you.
So many good things.
So anyway, we're ending this season because both George and I have some transitions to get through. We are hopefully going to make sure that I know that we'll stay in touch with our community. Please follow us on Instagram and TikTok. It's IntoMeIC_podcast. IntoMeIC is all one word. As we are going to be geographically apart, maybe we'll do some Facebook Lives and we'll kind of connect with listeners that way. But for real, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to all the people who listened from day one.
Thank you. Thank you.
I still get text messages of I listened to, that makes me so happy.
I know.
Leave your comments. We want to come back. We will come back for season 2 at the end of the summer.
Yes.
That is our plan. And hopefully, obviously, with juicy content.
Real juicy content. Summer, Beachbody is getting worked on right now.
I'm about to be in Europe.
You're about to be in Europe. I'm about to be in Australia.
Yeah.
We're going to have some stories.
Yeah, we're going to have some stories. We're going to have some content.
Yes. For sure.
Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
We live our lives and we love sharing it with all of you. And hopefully, those transitions will also give us some good insight, as we know that they will.
Yeah. But no, I just want to also thank you. This has been an amazing experience. Thank you for literally holding it down. AQ I am on her shoulders right now, y'all. Let's not get it twisted.
Carry it.
She is carrying this thing. So, I'm really glad to share this experience with you. I'm glad that we've had, even if it's one positive impact on some of our close circle, and we're excited to continue this. So we'll see y'all in a little bit. I hope everybody continues to just live freely, be honest with yourself, be real. Life is fun, so try to enjoy it if you can. Yeah,
and you're literally one of one friends probably who would be like, yeah, I'll do a podcast with you. No hesitation.
Right, let's run it.
So we are going to come back. Season 2, we're going to learn from season 1. We're going to reflect back and be even better in season 2. So thank you so much for listening so far, and we'll see you on the other side.
Adios, y'all.
Bye.